can let her, Kenny.
No, because then I'll be stealing their ruse, their gig. Okay, are we live now? So we are back, and we were joking around about the warm open that you hear like on all the big podcasts now, and so you guys missed the fun. We didn't come in with the intro music; we just went straight into it, and everybody was confused. And we were talking about how like the new trend in podcasts right now seems to be the warm open, where you bring the audience in, where you're halfway through with your conversation, and they really feel like they missed out on something. But joining us each week, as always, from Las Vegas, Nevada, Gordon Abernathy. And Freddie, if I remember correctly, you are out in northern-ish California?
No, I used to live in like Central California, but I live down 50 miles east of Los Angeles.
Oh, you moved closer to...
See, he lives east of Los Angeles. I now live in deep LA. Deep East LA. Yeah, that's it. Because everybody is moving for some reason to Vegas.
Oh, yeah, for the taxes.
Just don't bring your laws and everything that fucked up your state with you.
Oh, they will.
Oh, they have. And actually, it's the big complaint now is why is everybody in Vegas so rude to us from California? Well, just take a look at yourselves.
Well, it's funny living in Florida back in the early 2000s. There's this trend amongst the relocated New Yorkers. They would be an asshole to you or just be kind of rude and obtuse, and then they'd say, hey, it's okay, I'm from New York. It's like, no.
So you're a fucking asshole, right?
But as we were saying earlier when you guys couldn't hear the audio, Freddie Joe Farnsworth is a stunt coordinator and actor who lives out in Hollywood. And if you want to hear an in-depth background story on how he got into the industry, head over to WTSPWorldWar2.com, and you can hear our inaugural interview with Freddie Joe. I don't want to go down that trail again, not because it's not a good story, but because he's such an interesting guy and has so many other stories that aren't based around World War II content that I want to bring him over here so we can enjoy that. But with all that being said, Freddie, let's give people the Cliff Notes background because it's very interesting you growing up the way you did. So just the 30 seconds, how did you grow up and what was your family business, if you will?
Well, I grew up in Wyoming, cowboying. My dad did some ranching, and then went back into law enforcement. And yeah, that was it. And then I ended up going in the Marines because I got sick in 9 months of winter and feeding cows and elk and everything else. So I went for something easy and joined the Marines.
Yeah, so Freddie,
I can relate with the weather out in Wyoming. I lived in Big Sky, Montana for about 10 years.
Yeah.
So, Gordon, you would probably agree growing up in that environment, if you're looking for an easier route, you would probably join the Marine Corps, go sign up for Marine Corps boot camp to get a little break from the rugged lifestyle.
Below zero weather. We're not talking wind chill. We're just talking straight up. And within 3 months, I had moved to Las Vegas and was working in 117. That about killed me.
Yeah, that's a
that temperature
mighty
swing
shift.
is a motherfucker.
Well, that's kind of an interesting segue a little bit. When they're training in the Marine Corps, even the Army, Special Forces, or whatever, obviously you want to try to do as much of the training you can in the weather that's going to be similar to where you're going to be deployed. But obviously, special teams guys, they never know where they're going to be deployed. It's one of these, hey, we need you over here in a moment. So how does one kind of inoculate themselves to basically all weather patterns so that when you get deployed, you're not completely thrown out of your element?
The problem is no matter what you train in, you could train desert, snow, mountain, you just keep jungle. I mean, that's a lot of the Marines. You will be in Hawaii, and the next thing you know, we're Bridgeport, Mount Warfare training, and then you're going into the snow package, or then you're going back out to 29 Palms and aggressing, doing all that stuff. But the problem is, no matter where you get sent, it's like altitude. It takes you a few days to acclimate to where you're at. You can't, I can't go from training in Montana and then they drop me into the desert the next day and I'm going to be okay. So the whole point is, especially because I'm a Marine, Marine sweep, it just keeps rotating so that you know how to keep warm when you're in cold weather. You know what you need to pack. You know how much food you need to eat, the calories and stuff. When it's cold, you got to really pack your calories. because you're burning through it so fast, keep them warm, you know. And then my hardest part was just the heat. When I, you know, I was stationed, I was with Suicide Charlie 17, and when we went from Camp Pendleton, we just came back from Okinawa, Japan, which is tropical and jungle training, and we were down in Indonesia and Australia, all these places, the Philippines, doing training. And literally 3 months later, I was in 29 Palms, dying. And that desert is the hardest to acclimate to because it's so, you know, most desert places it's dry as hell, and you just cannot get enough water in you.
I'm here to tell you, I'll take the cold over the heat any day. You can always layer up properly, but there's only so much clothing you can take off. Right. You know, outside of because I've been asked too, is like, Gordon, how do you deal with the crazy weather you've lived in? And I'm like, well, outside of proper preparation and dressing right, I think 90% of it's mental. Just getting yourself in the right headspace and dealing with it.
Well, it's funny how our body acclimates after a while, because obviously you and I grew up in Ohio and Kentucky. It's not exactly not humid there in the summer times. And then I moved
it's swamp ass land in the summer.
Oh, my mom and dad live in Kentucky right now. They live in Liberty, Kentucky, and it gets humid as shit there. So.
And so when I moved,
wind, and there's no wind, and that heat just builds up in the tires.
Yeah.
And so when I moved to Long Beach, I was wearing pants every day, and then all the locals are wearing shorts. Aren't you hot? I'm like, no, this feels great. And, you know, the 80-degree day there, 90-degree day there feels like a 70-degree day in Ohio. But after a while, I got used to it. And after 4 years, I relocated to the dick of the country, Florida, far south Florida. And I'm 23 years old. I'm going out to these bars down at Fort Myers Beach, and a lot of them are outside. And holy fuck, I'm standing outside at these clubs trying to just, you know, not look like a complete psychopath, but I'm so used to the California cool weather. I'm soaked in sweat. And I got people looking at me like I'm on acid or maybe hopped up on E. I'm just, dude, my body's just sweating.
A fucking convenience
and I had a girlfriend who's like, are you all right? I'm like, no, I'm from California. I'm not used to, it took me probably a year to get used to not feeling like I just walked into a goddamn sauna down here. So it's crazy how two things happen when you move cross country. One, your body acclimates, and two, you're forced to buy a whole new inventory of socks. For some reason, socks are geographical, and I have no idea why.
You're probably standing in those lines with knee-high socks and dicky shorts on, right?
No, well, when I left Ohio, the mid-rise socks were in. And then when I moved to California, unless you're a cholo, the footy socks were in. So it was like everybody's looking at me like, what's this cat? And like, so I reinvested in socks. So I moved out to Florida, a whole different sock trend was in. So I had to reinvest in my socks again. It's like, I don't know why socks are geographical, but they clearly are. It's ridiculous.
No t-shirts, all button-up shirts when you're in Florida. Everything's buttoned up.
Speaking of shirts, did you get the shirt I sent you? Did it ever show up?
No, I haven't got anything.
Well, I'll have to get in on that.
You didn't ask me for my address, did you?
Yeah, I did. Maybe you didn't give it to me. That's why you haven't got your shirt yet.
Yeah, you send it to somebody. They'll be like, "Oh man, that's a nice ass shirt."
Yeah. But so after your time in the service, because I want to get to what you're doing now. I know we shared this on What's the Skull, but please tell Gordon how you got into. You know, Gordon, we talk about this a lot on this podcast, which is recognizing opportunity when it opens the door, and not being afraid to do something, even though it's not anything you've done before. And Freddie Joe has
like to say, grip it and rip it.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. Don't, you know, you're going to shorten your range of travel in life if you're afraid to try new things. Explain to Gordon how you became or got into the stunt coordinator field in Hollywood. This is just one of those stories that it's just perfect.
Well, I had just gotten out of the Marines, you know, and kept getting fired or quitting because I hated every human being that walked the face of the earth after 10 years in the Marines. And they were filming a movie called Starship Troopers in Casper, Wyoming. And they were looking, a bunch of my friends, we were all just shit-faced, getting drunk. What else do you do in Wyoming, as you know, being in Montana? We're sitting on drinking, they're all talking shit. Oh, they're looking for outdoorsmen or former military. And I was drunk, and, you know, I'm the baddest son of a bitch ever walked the face of the earth, you know, whatever.
So a drunk idea was hatched.
Well, it wasn't hatched. What hatched was they came and woke my ass up at 7 a.m. to go wait in a 3-hour line for this audition with 1,000 friggin' people.
Now, did you put up a fight?
Oh yeah, but you know.
Hey,
man,
fish were biting.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an avid fisherman, but I went and waited in line, and I was done. It was cold out. It was in April in Wyoming, so it was it was actually a warm day. It was like 50, whatever, but I was just not having 3 hours hungover. Like, I just want to go home, and these people and all of a sudden I had never met really a gay person that I knew was gay at the point, and he walked up and
yeah, I mean, we've all seen Brokeback Mountain.
yeah. If you read the book, you know it wasn't about Wyoming.
Yeah, I know. I'm just messing with
Anyway, yeah, I walked up and he's like, "Oh, so what are you, an outdoorsman or military?" And I just looked down at him and said, "Don't I fucking look like I'm in the military?" And that's all I said to him, and he just went, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh," and walked off. And then they called me back, and then I came back to a callback. I was driving semi trucks because I love being on my own on the road, so it's nice. And they called me back like a week later, and there's like 50, and it was a Ken and Barbie show, and I was like, "What in the fuck am I doing here?" Everybody's in there doing push-ups and stuff. I had shirt with my name on it, Wranglers and boots, and hat on, and I walked in and.
Now, was your shirt tucked in? Because I know a lot of times that's a sign of a former military person. They, regardless of the shirt, it's tucked in and that belt's on.
Got that gig line straight.
Yeah, I was known for getting in trouble for not doing that.
Oh, okay.
But being a cowboy, you got to have your shit styling and profiling. So I had my belt buckle on, so my shirt was tucked in. And I just walked in, and everybody stared at me like I had a dildo on my forehead, and I was like, "Oh." Fuck, what am I doing here? And then Captain Dale Dye walked in with the same Mr. Bell was the casting agent, and he did his whole speech, and I just watched Outbreak. Okay. And I didn't know he was a former Marine or nothing, but I'm like, holy shit, there's a movie star. This is fucking cool.
Are you familiar with who Dale Dye is, Gordon?
God, the name is familiar.
He's at least an NCO in just about every movie. He was officer and Save It Private Ryan at the very beginning. He's the one who called everybody in, and then he wasn't the one who read the letter from Abraham Lincoln, but he was in the room with the cat from Breaking Bad, which people don't realize he was in there. Basically, he has that voice. I think he's done video game voiceovers. Basically, once you hear his voice, you'll know exactly who it is. But I'll pull up a clip. Go ahead, Freddie.
And he's one of the premier tech advisors in the film business, and literally he's like, "You're gonna come into me, and you're gonna come in this room, and you're gonna report to me, and you're gonna do what I tell you to do, and that's gonna be your audition." And I was like, all I heard was report, and everybody, they're in there 15 minutes, and my truck is running. It's April, Wyoming, so I got the trucks out running still. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get so fucking fired. So like 2 hours later, finally he's like, Farnsworth, and I go in there and I reported like a Marine, and Sergeant Farnsworth's order below, snapped to attention, and he just kind of looked up at me like I was a fucking idiot, basically. And he just said, Marine? I said, yes, sir. And he said, what unit? And I said, Suicide Charlie, 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, even though I was in other units, but that's the one I claimed the most. And he just looked at me and said, I fucking hate 1-7. I was like, oh shit. And he said, drop and give me 25, which is not a Marine thing, but he said, drop and give me 25, which I did. And then I stayed in the push-up position. And he's like, why are you in the push-up position? I told him, you haven't told me to recover yet. And he said, recover. And I got up to attention. He goes, now get the fuck out of here and stop wasting my time. I was like, I would literally, and it was so funny because it's Ken and Barbie, everybody was looking at me stupid. I was literally in there for 2 minutes. Everybody else was in there like 15 minutes. I'm sure because he was checking all the girls' tits out and stuff. But I walk out, and they were all smiling and giggling. And like 10 minutes later, he walked out, basically said, everybody go home, Freddie Joe stay. And he just hired me to help out with the training in the military stuff and do his thing.
That's awesome.
Here's his voice.
Yeah, halfway through that film, he got a show called Rough Riders that had horses, and he was kind of like, hey, God damn it, Farnsworth, I don't know a fucking thing about horses. How would you like to be in Hollywood forever? And I'm like, fuck it, let's do it. I've never seen this kind of money in my life.
Hold right there real quick, Freddie.
Where we've discovered that
yes, sir.
Recognize his voice, Gordon?
In the water supply. Now, I've been hearing a lot about Camp Lejeune lately. some of my friends and their
So,
families who also.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen any movie made, regardless if it's World War II, modern day, within the last 20 years, you'll heard that voice somewhere in that picture.
Yeah, or he's tech advised it one way or the other. Yeah.
Well, even when he text advised, a lot of times they just give him a cameo.
Yeah, I do the same thing when I take advice.
And so he brought you on to do the tech advising for Starship Troopers, and then that went so well, he brought you onto the project with, you said it was out at a ranch. And
Well, it was Rough Riders. It was with Tom Berenger and Gary Busey and Sam Elliott. It was a big show. Yeah.
And so
John
basically since then, you've been Hollywood, and stunt coordinating and acting has been your permanent gig since then.
Well, yeah, you know, it took me a while. I realized early I wanted to be a stuntman, and according to my aunts and stuff, I you know, when I was a kid, I used to be like a goof. You know, I was jumping over stuff and jumping off things. You know, nothing's ever scared me, and so I just kind of used my military background and tech advice and work to get. You know, it's hard to get in the stunt business, and so slowly, you know, I'd go and ride horses and do stuff and do it for free, and then finally the stunt coordinator like, damn, that guy just did exactly what I need for the show, and so they just hired me. And it just kind of helped me build my resume up, and then you know, probably the last 10 years I've really moved into. I mean, I tech advise. I'm very limited on what I tech advise. It has to be, you know, I have to I'm pretty well known in Hollywood, but things have to go my way. I don't like to play the oh, it's not a documentary, so we're going to film this anyway bullshit. So you know, but you know, I do a few. I've done some good ones, World War Z, and I did a zombie World War II film that was really good called Overlord. You know, I've done spy games, done quite a few shows tech advising, but I just used that military to get in with the stunt stuff, and now I'm just I do some stunts. I just worked on I did the last episode of the season for NCIS LA, went out and did some driving stuff, and I just did a movie for Jesse Johnson.
Was that Manhood?
Yeah, might be. I don't know the name of it, but I
it all runs together.
Oh, it does. I'm sure.
Now it's just like I don't have a clue, and half the shit that I don't even go on the internet. But yeah, what I did some stunts and did some acting. I played a cop, and it's the start of the movie, and I get killed or whatever. I shouldn't say that, but
spoiler alert.
I just bounced around, and then I got some movies I'm stunt coordinating, so coming up.
You did the stunt coordinating for the Green Day video, "Wake Me Up When September Ends."
I did part of it because I was actually out there. I was hired 3 days before they did that video, and I got a call. It's like, oh my god, they had hired somebody else, and I'm not going to say who they are, but they had hired these people, and they were going to bring all the talent in. And I really went in and looked at so I went down there, looked at the pictures, and they had all these guys playing Marines, and they were like guys fatter than I am now. I mean, no offense to obese people, but you know, these guys were going into they were supposed to be in Iraq, and there's, you know, I mean, they had guys that were
the flak jacket will cover it up.
Yeah, no, they were plus 300, so there was no hiding with the flak jacket stuff. And so they said, well, we need you to fix this. So I
okay, everybody's fired.
Okay. Yeah, I said okay, but it was a very anti Green Day. It was very very far left, and I was like, look, I'm not, you know. But then they offered me enough money where I was like, okay, let me fucking see what I can do. And I had hired a bunch of Marines, guys that work in the business. Sean Bunch, well, he's a policeman now, but he works in the business. Robert Garcia, and a bunch of these guys, to Sam Hunter, that all were like in Iraq or all these wars. I hired them. One of them just came back like a month before we started filming this, and we went out, and I got a hold of what's this? The actress Green, was it
Tom Green?
No, the main guys. Anyway, I got a hold of him to train him, and of course that took.
You talking about from Green Day?
Yes.
Billy Joe.
Billy Joe.
No. The actor that was in the video.
Oh, I'd have to look. I got the video on here, but go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, got him, and then I started training him, and he would like. And I got these guys. I surrounded him with these guys. Just came back from Iraq, and they just really went at him. They're just like ripping shit off of him. You know, the wardrobe would put on him, and they put him together, and he was like, "Holy shit!" And then we filmed him before. You know, let him just go out and do it, and then we trained him for a few hours and then filmed him again, and he was hooked. He Jamie Bell, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, he was like, you know, he's a good actor, so he was like, yes, this is what I want. And so then it just started going. The guy they had playing the drill instructor didn't show up, so I like ran over and shaved my head. And fortunately, the uniform fit perfect. I played the drill instructor in the thing, and then we were doing the first big firefight. And I was actually in the scene. I had to wear a thing around my face. I was on the Humvee shooting 50 cal, and I had the guys patrolling in a big stagger column coming down the thing, and then all of a sudden the firefight took off, and this was supposed to be everything goes to shit moment. Like, you know, it's like we were a bunch of dumbasses out there and we shouldn't have been there. But I had all these real Marines and they were in the front, and they literally, it was like legit real shit. And I'm shooting a 50 cal and other things, and the director's like, what? You know, and the stunt performer gets blown up. And it wasn't in the script, but it was Sam Hunter. He crawls out in the middle of the scene because the scene was taking forever because video, you got to shoot it like
every angle.
Yeah, so he went and ran out and grabbed him by the back and pulled him behind the Humvee, the stunt guy. And I got done, director cut. Stunt coordinator's going ape shit. You just won the whole fucking thing, you know, it's going off. And I'm like, what? And I don't know what the hell because I'm in the Humvee. So I jump down and I go, well, let's go look at it. And I look at it and I go, that's fucking good shit right
there. Looks, I'm watching the video now. I have it muted.
Yeah, I said, this shit looks, I mean, that's what you would do. That's what he's, and he just said, oh, fuck, it just, I don't know why I did it. I go, you did what your instinct would do. I said, that's what he would do. The stunt coordinator, he's like, fuck you, I quit. And he walks off, and they're like, okay, well, I guess you're going to be the coordinator too. I'm like, all right, fuck it. And,
where was this shot? Because I'm looking at this, and this is not a cheap video at all. I mean, the soundstage or wherever they shot, the location they shot this, it looks legit.
No, it was, we shot out about 40 miles past Indio on the 10 freeway heading towards Arizona. And there's this old, like a mine of some sort out there with all these blowed up buildings and concrete. And it's like a little city.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a few things filmed out there, but that was the first time I was out there. It was crazy. And it was good. And, you know, the funny thing was they put us, I got all the guys per diem and stuff, you know, and they were all stoked about it. And they put us up in Indian Wells Casino, and it had only been open a week. And the director made the fatal mistake because after the first day, he's like, oh my God, this video, and it won video of the year. But he's like, this video is going to be fucking phenomenal. Thank you. I want all your guys. I brought all those guys from Marine Combat.
He didn't say bar tabs on me, did he?
Yes, and dinner.
Oh boy!
And he kept all day.
He didn't get out like a box of crayons too, did he?
Like 3 times he kept yelling at his assistant, "Go to you know." And I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I didn't go get another credit card." There's no
Oh shit!
He told me at the end of the night, he goes, I will never offer to buy Marines drinks again. He goes, that's more money I'll make on this whole fucking thing.
I was
gonna say, know what you just done.
I was gonna say his tab probably cost more than the production schedule for
that's
the entire
what he
video.
He's like, holy shit! But yeah, it was actually a really good. As funny stuff is, I've been noticed from a lot of stuff, but I was doing the Pacific and I was in Australia, and that video was on all the time at the time, and I got more people come up and ask for my autograph, or like, holy shit, that's you, you know. It's like, it's kind of cool. You can sit in the bar and everybody come running up. Well, you're that drill instructor guy. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Well, speaking of the Pacific and Band of Brothers, and we go into this in depth on what's the scuttlebutt, but Gordon, if you for those of you, because Band of Brothers has been around for a long time, but for those of you who have the box set, if you've never watched the extra scenes, which was recorded by Ron Livingston.
Livingston Diaries.
Yeah, they gave him a camera, and he starts off the hotel breaking in his Cochran boots, but they actually sent those guys to boot camp and broke them in and literally made them sleep in foxholes and out of tents and ran them rugged. Freddie Joe had the pure pleasure of being the guy who ran them rugged for like 3 weeks.
You know, that's good to hear. You just heard that about Top Gun too, how they got the actors trained into how to handle Gs, starting out with small aircraft, working their way up into the F-18s. You know, that, which I definitely want to see. I've heard nothing but good things about that movie.
would it be fair to say the Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan was one of the first productions to really force their guys into that level of quote unquote training pre-production?
No.
Really?
What
No,
about
Platoon, which was also Dale Dye.
Okay.
Dale was the head of both of them. Dale did Platoon, and he took them into the jungle in the Philippines and they were training for 19 days while war was going on in the Philippines. You know, and he was fighting, and so they had those guys went through the shit.
So it's basically the Dale Dye experience that he started on Platoon and really fine-tuned.
Yeah, Cap Dye, you know, love him or hate him. In the business, I love him and hate him all at the same time. But it's like
a perfect relationship.
Yeah, you know, yeah, it is. You know, I call him, he's my mentor in that side of the business. It's easy for me to walk in and say, tell me your 5 greatest war films you've ever seen. And all 5 of them, the actors were trained.
Mm-hmm.
They had a great tech advisor, and usually 4, if not all 5 of them, Captain Dye had something to do with it.
Sure.
And then I said, well, tell me the 5 just off the wall things that are shitty fucking war movies that were good scripts, but they're just shitty. And I'm like, what's the difference? They go ahead and research. There's no tech advisor. So that's the difference between a good movie and a shitty movie.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because, you know, The Longest Day has, you know, everybody looks at it's a great movie. It's a great movie. But as a historian and a reenactor, the fact that every single person in that goddamn movie, with the exception of John Wayne, because he uses his as a crutch, everybody's carrying a Thompson. No one has an M1 Garand except for John Wayne, and they got these horrible, like, football-style chin straps. But for whatever reason, I don't know if all the M1 Garands were being used in training for, because wasn't it filmed roughly around the time of Vietnam? Or Korea, maybe?
Yeah, probably.
So I don't know if maybe...
it was in the 60s.
Yeah, so Vietnam. So maybe the M1 Garands were being held on to for whatever reason, but everybody in that movie carried a Thompson. So if you knew nothing about World War II, you just thought the Normandy invasion was won with the Thompson submachine gun at long range. Yeah. But it's just little things like that where they may have either availability or they figure, well, half the people on the crew were, you know, old enough to have been there, so we don't need a tech advisor. I don't know.
Well, you do look at a lot of those old war films, as gaudy as some of them are. A lot of the actors did serve in World War II or Korea, or, you know, not many in Vietnam, but
not John Wayne.
So you know, but you go all the way. Even you look at a film like Boys from Company C. Technically, except for the drill instructor stuff, it's shitty fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It's one of my favorite films. It's very entertaining, but Arlie Ermey's in it, and you're like, wait, what? You know, like, but you know, back then, Dale kind of allowed the tech advisor to say, no. You know, Dale says no differently than I do. We do, but you know, there's some great tech. You know, Jim Deaver. Harry Humphreys has done some amazing, done some shitty stuff. So with Jim, you know, but they've done some amazing films that will live with you. I use, you know, some of the things they do just in training for the actors. You know, about you know, walking directly in, don't run away from the fire, get up and go towards the fire, so on and so forth. And that stuff is amazing on film.
What's some of the stunts you coordinated on Captain America, the first Avenger?
Well, I didn't coordinate it. I was just a stunt performer.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, they give you credits for stunts. Whose stunt double were you? Just the background?
I didn't stunt double nobody. I originally was hired to go there and tech advice to help train the American side.
Yeah.
So I was going to go over there. I was only going to work on the show for a couple weeks, and then Steve Dent was a stunt coordinator, and Steve did a movie. My first movie I tech advised by myself, a movie called Spy Games. Mm-hmm. And the very first day of filming, I had all the background. We were doing the scenes where the skinny Chris Evans jumps out on jumps on the grenade.
Yeah.
Right. And so we probably had 100 background performers there that day doing the camp. You know, of course, I call it the AD disease. We got to have people running around out in the background. I'm like, well, what are they doing? I don't know.
Just
gotta
run.
be running around.
You gotta be busy work. Let's go.
That's what we do on base. We just run around and just doing nothing. And
all right, boys, we're going on a scavenger hunt. Just look busy.
exactly.
Well,
But,
hurry up and wait doesn't translate the film very well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of boring actually. But I had these guys. I had trained them for like 4 or 5 days, all the background performers, and spent the day with the actors and stuff. And we were, I think it's called Black's Park. We're at Pinewood Studios. It's this long drive thing, and I had them all in formation, and I started singing, and they started singing back, and there's like 100 people through Black's Park singing, and Steve Dent, I didn't know, was in a vehicle behind me, and I had everybody kind of split so he could go through, and I was still singing the whole thing, and he just went, no. And he was just like, that's the greatest thing I've ever freaking heard in my life, all 100 of those guys repeating after you. And then, awesome.
There's something about that. I've done a lot of events, and one of my favorite ones was the 75th anniversary of Tarawa, where we did in Fort Morgan, Alabama. And there was about 100 of us, and we force marched a mile in full Marine Corps 1942 haversack, the shelter helmets, whole 9 yards. And we had some active duty Marines there who were reenactors, and they're very into the Marine Corps history. And so we had the march down, they had the cadence going, the whole thing. And there's just something about not only seeing that, but being in it, even though we're just a bunch of reenactors, but being in the uniform and actually seeing 60 guys walking down the line in perfect formation. There's just something cool about it, regardless of where you're at.
Especially if you've never seen it.
Yeah.
You know? And if you've never been a part of it, you're in it, you're just like, I remember Band of Brothers the first time I sang, because I have a very loud cadence singing voice, very loud, because my last 4 years in the Marines, I was at Marine Combat Training, and I'd have 100 and some Marines, and I'd be like screaming and yelling at them and singing and doing all this stuff. And Donnie, I still remember Donnie Wahlberg going, "Holy shit." You were, but beside me, first of all, you were breaking my eardrums without any amplification, and second, I was so motivated. I felt like I could walk to the moon.
That's the job.
And the reason why we do that is, one, take your mind off your pain, and two, you're actually opening your lungs up and breathing. Because one of the things people do when they're under stress or they forget to breathe. So if you're singing, you're breathing and stuff. So me being the Marine always in my life, there's a reason for everything.
Now no worries. With Captain America, that was filmed in 2011, or maybe that was the release date. And we know Band of Brothers released 3 days after 9/11, so you guys recorded that in 2000. Were you on set for Captain America when Neil McDonough showed up, or did you not have the opportunity to see him?
Oh, yeah.
How was that after seeing him for the first time after 11 years?
Billy Budd, who also worked on Band of Brothers, Billy Budd he's a British Royal Marine, a lovely character. He's a tech advisor as well, very, very good tech advisor. But he was the main tech advisor for Captain America. Like I said, I was only going to go there basically to help out. And Steve Dent had already said, "No, you're staying here because I need your accent. You're going to be on the stunt crew. You're going to do stunts," because he knew I was a stunt performer. And but Billy had them all in this big old studio in Pinewood Studios. And in fact, I think it might have been the Bond sound set. I can't remember. Anyway, he goes, "Hey, I'm going to have all the actors over there the first day to meet them, And so he had all of them. I don't remember all their names. I know Neil was in there, and Billy was talking to him, and Billy's like really like, hey, he likes to be the good guy, the friend guy, to all of them.
Good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, and I walked in the studio, and no sound. If you ever been in a sound studio,
yep.
When it's empty, it echoes and it's loud. And I walked in and I started yelling at Compton. I'm like, yeah, fuck up face. And he fucking immediately jumped down into the position of push-ups, and he's standing there. And all the other actors are like, holy shit, what just fucking happened?
Now, for those of you not aware, playing along home, Neil McDonough played Buck Compton in Band of Brothers. And as we previously said, Freddie Joe had the pleasure of breaking these guys down for 3 weeks. Now, a lot of these cats, when they recorded Band of Brothers, with the exception of Donnie Wahlberg and Ron Livingston and maybe one or two other cats, most of these guys, this is their first real project. And a lot...
Well, here's the funny thing. I know that you just said it was their first
American. Yeah.
It was their first major. All of them, you know, and there was a running joke about Law and Order because, like, Rick Gomez and Frank Johnny, they're like, yeah, if it wasn't for Law and Order, I wouldn't be in the film. I wouldn't be an actor anymore, you know, because they'd get guest starring roles and so on and so forth. And I always use that as an example. People ask me, what's the difference between the actors on Band of Brothers and the actors on the Pacific? And the actors on Band of Brothers had been through the friggin' ringer, and they knew exactly what opportunity they were just given.
Yeah.
A lot of the actors on the Pacific
assume that it would come because of the franchise.
That, and some of them were already made. You know, John Barenthal had some films out. John Seda was already a big name. James Batchdale, you know, he was already becoming a big name and had already filmed a few things that was coming out, you know, and then of course you had Little Dinosaur Boy, which I couldn't stand.
Really? Hold on. Really? You know, I was kind of surprised with these relaunch of, I guess maybe since he did Queen, he's too big to do the relaunch. Because I was really surprised he wasn't in the follow-ups for Jurassic Park, but you weren't a fan of his?
Oh, the biggest pussy I ever met in my life. The biggest fucking, excuse my language, biggest pussy I've ever met in my life. Cried and whined
the entire fucking
every
time?
day of the whole show.
That sucks.
And I fucking rode him like he was a mule. Rode the shit out of him. And he hated, he tried to get me fired. He almost had me, he was 5 minutes away from having me fired one day, fine.
He's too mean to me.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I can't perform today. He threatened my life.
I'm performing under duress right now.
You know, it's interesting because Gordon and I were talking 2 nights ago about the show The Mayans. It's a spinoff from Sons of Anarchy, and Gordon stopped watching after season 2, and I've been invested. So it's one of my shows I watch when nothing else is on. But we got to talk about Kurt Sutter, and I was like, well, Kurt Sutter got kicked off like 3 seasons ago because he created a toxic environment. And we were laughing about how you got a show of these actors who are portraying, let's be honest, in real life, you wouldn't want to have any interaction with anybody from Sons of Anarchy or the Mayans. These are the worst people on the fucking planet. You know, the murderers, they're horrible people. But the irony of that, they're creating that environment and that their personality, but to have Kurt Sutter run off for toxic environment, has it been harder without putting yourself in risk? But have you noticed a swing in Hollywood when it comes to how you have to interact with the talent now, compared to maybe 20 years ago when you got started?
Like I said before,
you don't pull any punches, so I figured
when somebody hires me, it's the whole point of him trying to get me fired, which I was close. One executive producer had like, pack your shit and go, and I was like, you know, go fuck yourself. I don't give a shit. I'm fucking out of here. You know, I've already made my money. I don't give a fuck. And but a gentleman by the name of Tony Toe, who was the main producer, he did Band of Brothers Pacific. He's, you know, number 3 at Disney for a long time. He's one of the best executive producers, leaders of a film I've ever worked with. Well, Tony Toe said, come over here. And he, you know, basically, it's one of the greatest moments of my film stuff. He pulled him and the other actor aside with the executive producer. And, you know, because, of course, they went to him. So I just fired Freddie Joe, blah, blah, blah. And Tony Toe and Captain Dye went to Captain's like, I don't know. I don't want nothing to do with this. Right. And, you know, I said, well, fuck it. I'm out of here. I don't give a shit. And I was walking by and Tony Toe pulled me over and he just looked at him and he goes, come here. And I was like, oh, fuck. I don't want to talk to you guys right now. Because I hadn't gone to anger management yet. So
So that implies that you have sense?
Oh yeah, I've spent a lot of money trying to calm myself down. It works sometimes, but he just basically said, "I just want to tell you." You know, I was like, "Oh, Mr. Toe," you know, he goes, "Shut the fuck up." I'm like, yes, sir. And he goes, "I'm going to tell you what I told these gentlemen." And he said, "They told me that you said that if it's all fine and dandy, if I see you out in town, I'm going to beat the living shit out of you." Right, and I did. And he said, but this is what I told him. He said, I told him, well, you're lucky to beat the shit out of you here. And I also told him, pull your fucking panties up and get back in the fucking thing and do exactly what the fuck he told you to do, because that's why I fucking hired. Because
that misery, that anxiety, it carries over to film. And these guys are supposed to be in a miserable, anxiety-filled, holy shit, not only are the Japanese trying to kill me, but this godforsaken island's trying to kill me. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah,
Here to apply the pressure.
There are very few good actors. They understand. They don't understand. They don't know that anxiety. They've never felt that anxiety, that danger, that fear for life, that working off your subconscious, not because your conscious is saying run, get the fuck out of here. So your subconscious is doing whatever you were trained to do. So good actors, Brad Pitt, all these other guys, Samuel Jackson, all these people I've trained, they just suck every ounce of it. There's always that actor that read this fucking book that said, oh no, you're a thespian. You can go to any dark place you want to go. You don't need to get out here to understand it. And I always tell all these people when I train them, I'm like, I'm about to train you in something that no school, no life experience will ever be able to make you go to. And there's a difference between being tired and being military tired. There's a difference between being scared and being military scared, you know. And I always say, one bullet or a million bullets, you shit yourself no matter what. So you got to learn how to shit yourself, but still be able to accomplish the mission. So that's basically what we do with those actors. And you know, in some there's been just only a few in the I've been 26 years. 26 plus years. I've only had a couple actors, and I had one that really went, and it was like, okay, let's go on the back 40 and I'll just, mop the shit out of you right now. And he ended up about halfway through the film going, I was a fucking idiot. You are the fucking man. And he is, and still to this day, he's a good friend. But there's only been one or two actors that really didn't, and I always tell everybody, it's like, if you're going to be a carpenter, you better learn how to fucking use a hammer.
Well, and that's what's crazy about the method actors. I was going to ask you, have you had any experience with Daniel Day-Lewis or Shia LaBeouf? Because I heard both of those. I heard during Abraham Lincoln that basically Daniel Day-Lewis lived in his tent and his costume for the most of the shoot. And I heard that Shia LaBeouf did the same thing on Fury, where he really cut his cheek, he busted his tooth, he lived in his uniform and didn't take a bath for 4 months, really getting into the character.
I honestly haven't worked with either one of them. And I don't mind method actors at all. Yeah. And kind of what I do is teaching actors how to be method actors.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. It's the extreme opposite. You're talking about, I'm trying to teach, because we're talking about how those experiences that the anxiety carries over to film. Well, those method actors, they understand that. And so they perfect example. If you watch the documentary about Jim Carrey and him playing the character on Man in the Moon, he turned into him. Like, he was living those characters for like 24 hours a day through the entire shoot.
His career because of it.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fantastic documentary. But yeah, it's like, it'd be interesting to see that. I don't know. I just, maybe being a living historian, I can visually see just Daniel Day-Lewis at the end of the day of the shoot, sitting in his uniform in an old 1800s wall tent with the duckboard and just sitting in the mud with a old school lantern and reading a book. I can see it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the fortunate thing about doing the boot camp is we because a lot of actors, let's put it this way, a majority of actors aren't method actors at all.
Sure.
That's a wrap. We're going to go get shit faced. You know what I mean? That's the majority of actors, like a strong majority. And what by putting them in boot camp, and let's just do a silly, it wasn't a silly movie. Actually, it was kind of entertaining movie I did called Overlord.
Yeah.
And J.J. Abrams, I was hired because he was a young director, and my reputation had preceded me about not taking shit from nobody and keeping things running the way it's supposed to run.
That was the airborne movie that took place on D-Day that quickly turned into a zombie movie, kind of like how Dusk Till Dawn went from a bank robbery movie to a vampire movie all in one.
Yeah, exactly. But
God love the 90s.
It kind of made a little bit more sense because it was not necessarily a zombie film. It was more about the 1,000-Year Reich. They were trying to build that super soldier, and it kind of went out. It went south on them, and so I kind of liked the premise of it. I was told at the beginning, hey, this is not going to be
historically accurate.
Yeah, because there's going to be, black paratroopers that are in charge of white paratroopers and so on and so forth. But I was like, look, I don't give a shit. It's your fucking money and you're J.J. Abrams. Who the fuck am I going to tell you? But my whole point to them was, I don't care about that, but they will not diminish the paratroopers from World War II, the 101st. I'm the one that talked them into being 101st Airborne troops. They had, I don't fucking know. I'm like, look, the most known fucking unit use their fucking patches.
Or second best 82nd, but don't go.
Yeah,
exactly. Don't leave those two realms.
They had some. I don't know. I'm like, just use the 101st. So they put the Screaming Eagles. And the funny thing is all the most of the wardrobe, most of the props and weapons, they were all from Band of Brothers.
Sure.
So when I showed up, they were like, fuck yeah, this is gonna get real good, real interesting, real quick. And those actors, and I watched the interview with Wyatt Russell. I forgot the other actors, but Ian, he's a Scottish guy, and they were giving an interview, and they were like, tell us about what the training did for the film, and Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son, basically said, there was times when the directors wanted us to do things for theatrical purposes, and
sure.
Because we did that training, I had the ability to go, I'm not fucking doing that, because that would embarrass the military, and there's no way in hell they would do that, and that meant a lot to me, and also they said I was the meanest fucker they ever met. That was also very important to me.
Well, that's one of the things we covered on the other show too, is you have a very strict policy of, while you're in that uniform, act as if.
Absolutely. And it's true. Like, and all your listeners and everybody, majority of your listeners know somebody, they're related to somebody, or they are somebody that has wore that uniform. And it's not a Cub Scout uniform. It's something that it's earned through blood, sweat, and tears. And it's a way of life. So I never understood these shows. I watched the show. I don't know if I can say it, but I watched the show that I really enjoyed the first time because I didn't really fucking pay attention to it that much. But it was called something. It's about Saddam Hussein. It's a 4-part miniseries, and House of Saddam was the name of it.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, that's kind of good. But I just watched it recently, and then I'm like watching it, and I'm like, oh my god!
Why didn't they call me?
They're in Iraqi freedom and all this stuff, and their guys have H harnesses on, which was worn in Vietnam, and and they're all carrying M16A1s, which were vamped out in 1988, by the last units had them in 1988, and I'm like, and then all Saddam's sons, Uday and Hussein or whatever the fuck their names were, they had M16A1s. I'm like, what in the fuck, and it just kind of
not an AK or Galil to be seen, huh?
Yeah, AK-47 or 74 or just pistols. They were known for having their gold pistols. They loved their gold 50 caliber Desert Eagles and shit like that. And then
the most impractical handgun in the world.
Yeah, they blow the building up. When they finally get killed with the TOW missile, I'm like, what the fuck? TOW missile? That's what the fuck? What the fuck is this? And it just kind of like ruined it for me. And I'm like, for $15,000, that film could have been fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And to save $15,000. So, and that's one of the things that have changed. You were talking about, with people won't hire me unless they know me, because I have that reputation, first of all, that, I'm not very politically correct. So my first production meetings I always have, I'm like, look, I'm going to say, fuck you, motherfucker, cunt, bitch, blah, 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 all the fucking stuff.
7 words you can't say on radio.
Any of it. I don't mean a word of it, but it's just a part of the whole scenario and the situation. Second of all, anybody that fucking bitches is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Gone. If you want to bitch about it, moan about it, gripe about it, I don't have time for you. Even if you fucking smile at me in formation, I will fire you in a second. And that goes for passes.
You know,
And,
you're talking about how you're vernacular, and it reminds me of that scene from Platoon. And the guys are talking about, oh, I got, 2 months and a day. And the one guy's like, have you been home since you've been in? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, how are you going to talk to your mom? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, I went home and I was like, great fucking potatoes, Mom. Can you pass the fucking hamburgers, Mom? And he was basically explaining, we've been out in the jungle and been in this situation. Our vernacular, of course, back in the 60s, it wasn't commonplace. It was frowned upon to use that sort of language in front of your parents, especially your mom. And so kind of like you're talking to the people in charge, that's just your vernacular.
Yeah.
I want to change up a little bit so Gordon can jump in on this because he's seen every episode of both series. What was it like working on Fear the Walking Dead?
Oh, I love it. My first was the season 2, then I did season 3, and then I did season 4, and then I just did last season. Went out for 3-4 weeks out in Texas to work on it. And I absolutely loved it. And it's a different kind of change because I was in shape, skinny, ripped motherfucker, so I was playing the zombie all the time. And now I get to play the fat fucking military guy that's still alive. So I kind of like it. But,
yeah, I'm in the new season right now. I'm actually a few episodes behind on AMC Plus, but I'll definitely keep an eye out.
Let me tell you something. We were talking about humidity earlier.
I was going to say, imagine being in all that zombie makeup in the middle of Texas in fucking August.
I feel horrible. I was August of last year. I was out there for 3 weeks, and I was on horseback, which is fine, but I was in mop 4, full rubber, hood over, mops, get up. And it was 102 degrees, 100. I was like, I'm gonna fucking die. I literally, like you were talking about sweat. I ruined like 3 pair of boots.
You'll lose 20 pounds before you're out of it.
He's having.
Oh, it was great. I mean, I should have stayed out there forever. It wouldn't be such a chunky fucker now.
He's having flashbacks to his gas mask training back in the day.
Oh, it was so miserable. But James Armstrong and Jack, which is his brother. Their uncles is Vic and Andy Armstrong. James is Andy's son, and Vic and Andy Armstrong, especially Vic, they're like some of the biggest pioneers in all of stunt business. I mean, Vic is the governor. Everybody calls Vic the governor. He's one of the highest paid second unit director. He gets paid more sometimes than the actual director. He's done a ton of Bonds. He was Harrison Ford stunt double. He did like 19 James Bonds. He just, they're just, and James is young, but I've known him since he was like 9 years old. So it's kind of cool that I'm working for him. He also brought me in to work on the greatest showman and stuff. So it's kind of like I'm nostalgic, for them. It's like, oh, let's bring Freddie Joe in, and they always bring me in for shit nobody else would do. So it's kind of cool. Oh, he'll fall off the helicopter from 30 feet. He don't give a shit.
Well, it's funny talk about being chunky, and you mentioned flak jackets earlier, and I was like, you know what piece of gear would make the skinniest guy in the world feel fat as a real plate carrier because of the way they're sized?
Mm-hmm.
Guy's extra large. He's got to get like a triple extra, quadruple extra large plate carrier.
Yeah, and it doesn't breathe. So
and it doesn't breathe.
And
it's like doing Mach 4. It just doesn't breathe. Everything's just sweating out of you.
It's funny. Gordon and I kind of gingerly touched on this back when the pandemic started. And you start seeing, people start making comments, and during the Trump administration comments, and, people were kind of throwing the phrase Civil War around. And we brought it up. It's like, how many people have these fantasies? It's like, what is your idea of Civil War? You better hope it's go out on your front porch, fire for a few rounds, and then go sit back on your couch, because no one is going to be physically fit. No one realized how heavy plate carriers are when they got all the plates in there and having all of the shit you need on your back. It would never happen.
You hear people talk about all these, I got thousands of rounds. I'm like, and how much of that are you going to carry with you?
Yep.
How much of that you're going to put in your vehicle? You may have.
You better have a fucking bunker in your ground to go along with it, because you ain't.
Yeah, I have a couple great stories about that. Tony Scott, when I did Spy Games, him and the armor. The reason why I got it is I was hired by the art department to go out and make Wars of Morocco look like Vietnam, which was a bitch. But I had a bunch of workers working for me, and I built the fire base and all this stuff. I planted palm trees, and I was literally supposed to fly out that day, and the armor was John Nixon, and he did Band of Brothers. And he's like, he got in an argument with God rest his soul, Mr. Scott. Tony Scott was like, and they brought me down there, and he's like, he had read Carlos Hathcock's book, about shooting a bicycle tire out with 50 cal with the Ma Deuce. So he wanted that in the film, and he wanted Brad Pitt's character, who was a sniper, to carry this Ma Deuce. And so I walked up, and I'm like, and of course, while I'm walking in to get James Scott to call all these, producers, don't argue with Tony. He hates being argued. Just tell Tony what he wants, and then we'll get you to your airplane, because I was supposed to fly out in like 2 hours to go back. And he goes, so I walked up, and John had the HK 380 with the bull barrel, friggin', sniper, full on looking sniper rifle, and then there's the Ma Deuce 50 cal on the tripod and stuff. And they're like both going back and forth, and I'm like, oh fuck, I don't know what to do, And I just said, Mr. Scott, can you pick that 50 cal up? So I opened up the panel and said, can you pick it up? He's like, oh, it's heavy. I'm like, yeah, it's like 70 pounds.
And that's without the ammo.
And I said, a box of ammo will add another 40 or 50 pounds of that. And you want them walking 30 or 40 clicks to get this target. It's not going to happen. Plus, you also got to carry the tripod. Because you can't shoot this thing, Rambo. You can't shoot this thing off without it.
Tripod alone's 48 pounds.
Yeah, it's freaking huge. And he was like, oh, okay, we'll use a 380. So I got that thing. That was one.
To say the control on a Ma Deuce is nothing like a 380 either.
And that is why
I won that argument. But
and that is why Freddie Joe was fired from the production of The Predator.
Yeah, exactly. But
that minigun.
Yeah, the minigun with Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was right. I always like when they use the what they call mini my or the whiz will or whatever the fuck you want to call it, the 6-barrel. Yeah. I'm like, you know how much ammo you would how much weight you would have to carry to shoot that thing for 5 seconds?
You'd have to have a donkey with you.
You can't even get the Rock over here to do that. I mean,
and then fast forward to talk about body armor. Did you guys ever see The Unit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I doubled Max Martini. He's like one of the best. I've been his stunt double for 20. Now I just stunt coordinate all of his movies that he's directing and stuff now. And I was doubling him on that. In the very last episode, Dennis Haysbert got pulled over by some U.S. Marshals, and he invited them to set and so on, because they were big fans. And they were like, me, Max, and Dennis Haysbert were sitting there, and the U.S. Marshals were like, hey, we're doing they've got this big thing. They're taking down 46 warrants and stuff. You guys want to go on one of the raids with us in the morning?
Hell yeah.
And of course, they were like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And Max is like, I'm going. Freddie Joe goes, So we go to a staging area like 4 o'clock in the morning, because they do them at like 6 in the morning, because that's when everybody's
sleeping.
Yeah, so we're like 4 o'clock. We meet, and they're going through, they're going through their 5-paragraph orders, what we call the military or whatever. They're giving the briefing and everything. And they're like, okay, get the actors. We met the captain in charge of everything. So get the actors, and then go ahead and body arm them up. Well, they pulled out a real body armor
plate carrier.
And they both of them looked at me and went, dude, this is like 60 fucking pounds. I said, yeah, it's got to be ballistic proof. So
welcome to real life.
Yeah, you're looking at.
They were like, we have no. I said, it's not filled full of foam and shit, looking all cool and pretty.
Yeah, they're about
the legit stuff is not like.
Well, you gotta think you got about what, 8 pounds on the front, 8 pounds on the back, 5 to 6 on the side pan plates. I mean, they're pretty.
Even more, the front and back plate, I think, is even more than that.
Yeah.
I think they're like
20, aren't they?
I think they're close to 20 each. So you're looking at 40 just for front and back.
I have a plate carrier, but I have weighted plates in it for when I run, and just I can go out and run 3 miles in 28 minutes. I put on that plate carrier with 2 8-pound weighted plates, and just adding that 16 pounds, it just brings your pace down tremendously.
Absolutely.
And that's what I was talking to Gordon. So it's like, people don't realize how heavy all this shit is. And no wonder so many guys get on militaries between that and the fucking rucksack. No wonder their backs are blown out.
Just look what 5 30-round magazines for an AR weigh, when they're loaded.
Mm-hmm.
I had loaded up my carrier, my rifle bag, and to go shooting at the range. I said, I'll just load this up, and I said, Jesus Christ, this is way heavier than I thought.
Yeah. Now, can you imagine this? In Desert Storm, I had 19 loaded magazines, and I had sewed 2 full bandoliers on the back of my flak jacket.
Jesus.
That's how just in that. And then I had 4 grenades and 1 Woolly Creek grenade. Just in that alone, I was carrying an extra 30
And you
pounds.
got to go prone and then get up and run and cover all.
But I didn't give a shit back then. I was a freaking idiot.
Well, you know,
I'll feel this in about 30 years.
And going back to World War II, the ammo carriers, they had this rudimentary like back brace. It was basically a metal C that they put 4 ammo cans in with some rubber bands and then strap it on their back. Ergonomic, it was not. And so,
exactly.
And these poor guys are just. And everything was heavy back then. I mean, hell, the M1 helmet alone weighed 3.5 pounds. You put that on,
I know.
Your neck hurts from laying prone. I cannot imagine laying prone all day with that heavy ass. I mean, even through Vietnam, Korean War, you know, just the M1 helmet is just so damn
when
heavy.
I went, this is how old I am. When I went through infantry school, that's what I had.
Yeah.
With the Kevlar liner with the steel pot on the outside.
Yep.
Yeah, it was friggin' like, but the Kevlar's fucking heavy as shit.
Everything's heavy.
Now they've realized, when I was at Marine Combat Training, when I was an instructor at Range 314 with all the weapons, I was teaching all the weapons and stuff. We used to do tests. We'd shoot the flak jacket with different ammo, and man, every time you would shoot one of those helmets, it would just, the bullets would go through it. It would just turn into mush. Like, this thing is not. So
no, those were designed to protect you from flying debris. They were never meant to stop a bullet.
From flak. And fortunately, the military has now realized, you know what, we don't need all that to protect from flak. Let's go a little bit more high speed and lighter.
Well, you were over there at the time. One of my listeners brought me a helmet, an Iraqi helmet that his brother-in-law brought back from my Iraqi freedom, and all that goddamn thing is a 2-inch thick M1 helmet liner. It looks exactly like an M1. It has the same webbing in it. It's just 2 inches thick. They called it the ballistic helmet, and it was literally. It looks just like an M1 helmet liner.
Yeah, we call them Spaceball helmets.
Speaking of helmets, one of the coolest piece of World War II memorabilia I've seen was a boss of mine out in Montana. He's the guy who owned the company. He had in a clear plastic case a German war helmet with a hole blown in it. Come to find out, that was his father's. He was part of the Weimar Republic, and he got that hole blown in it, and that's how he met his mom. His mom was actually a nurse for the Germans, and they kept that. I thought that was a really cool story. I think there are some memoirs written about it, but the wounded soldier who probably should have been, in all intents and purposes, dead.
Yeah,
meets the nurse who nursed him back to health. They get married and move to the United States and live the American dream out of Detroit.
I got to ask you, I haven't heard of this title, but the title, what the hell is the Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre?
Oh, man, that's a great movie. You got to watch it. It's hilarious.
I'll have to check that out.
It's a friend of mine, a former Marine. His name's Mike Carey. He wrote this. It's funny. I was doing Will Gardner, and I brought him out because he's an actor. But he wasn't doing a part. I brought him out to do stunts and stuff, but things didn't work out. And he brought me this brochure of this pitch about these wrestlers that fight zombies. And I was like, actually, at first I was kind of like, oh yeah, that's gonna go a long ways. Okay, I won't go nowhere. I was like, yeah, man, I'm interested. Whatever you do. Well, fast forward to a few years ago, Max got involved in it. Max Martini, and man, it's a good movie. Randy Couture, Baz Rutten, that was a good. I mean, very entertaining, and it's a series of films, and he's like very old school. So like,
now I'm watching the trailer. It looks like the zombie outbreak is caused by some bad steroids or something.
And it was. They didn't even. This was way before
pandemic.
We filmed it. We got done filming literally 6 months before COVID. So, and it's bad steroids they get from China.
Of course.
And it all worked out, and man, that was it's actually.
Did you get for your bad steroids from China?
Yeah, it's very, me and Max got in a big fight about it, and I said, look, I've worked on a few zombie movies, doing Fear of the Walking Dead. I just a few years back, I did the New World or whatever the heck it is, the third Walking Dead series.
Yes.
Michael Cutlass brought me out to train all these guys that are playing Marines in the show, and the lead, one of the lead actresses that's a former Marine, and I'm like, I've done a lot of zombie shit. I did World War Z, so I've done some pretty successful shit with zombies. And I said, look, one of my favorite films of all time about zombies is Shaun of the Dead.
Yes, that's a great movie. The comedy's there.
It's funny. I said, but there was one thing in that show. You had comedy, and you had comedy zombies. And then you look at World War Z, you had serious and serious zombies. I said, why don't we do a comedy, but the zombies are serious? And fuck, I fought, and so then they came up to the camera test, and I said, look, I went out there for a couple of weeks training. I had a couple of these wrestlers, and I was training the two leads. Mike Carey played one of the leads, and Chris played the main lead, and I was training them for fighting and all this stuff, and they were professional wrestlers at one time in their career, and so they were easy to train. So we did some pretty hairy shit, beat the shit out of each other, and and I go, look, I mean, I got enough. And me and Max, because he's one of my best friends, I've been a stunt double for fucking ever, and like there when all his kids were born, he was there when my kids were born, so people just laugh at us in productions meetings because I'm like, fuck you, no, go fuck yourself, one of those kind of things. And we were getting fight. Like the zombies he wanted them to be fucking silly fucking zombies. And I'm like, that's been done, man. Let's do a fucking scared. It's a fight movie. We got Boss Root and Randy Couture and all. Mm-hmm. Let's make the zombies. Let's make these guys really have to fucking fight these fucking things. And
I mean, zombies are great, but we're sleeping on Balls of Fury. What kind of stunts were in the ping pong? The ping pong movie.
I worked on that one too. I worked on Balls of Fury, but so anyway, I go, look, I'll do the camera test. I'll play the first zombie that turns, right? And Max, he never wants to cast me in anything, so you got, Freddie Joe, you got this stuff. I don't want to cast him. I'm like, whatever. I got done with that test, and he was like, I fucked up bad, because I just fucking jumping and just ripping guts out of things. And I beat the shit out of these poor two guys that were that I'd been rehearsing with, and sure enough, the zombies went fucking vicious, and it's pretty good. Some great fight scenes, and because a couple of zombies are like wrestlers too, and so I said the whole premise is they've lost their mind, like World War Z. They lost their mind, but they still have that skill of fighting. They can still pick you up and suplex you and DDT you or whatever. And in fact, one of the best fight scenes in it is with Randy Couture, and he's a stunt actor guy, and man, they tore it up on screen. And we filmed it for like a little over $1 million, but it's fucking hilarious. It's one of the funnest movies I ever worked on.
Very cool.
Well, it is streaming on Amazon Prime, so I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, it's just fucking hilarious. There's some lines in there that you will cry laughing.
It's funny. I live down in Cape Coral, Florida, and across the river is Fort Myers, Florida, and that was actually the set for the 1984's Day of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a pretty cool YouTube video where a guy goes around, about 8 years ago, and he shows the modern locations of where these scenes were shot. And so anytime I run in downtown Fort Myers, I'm running past these locations, and I'm thinking, oh, that's where that scene was, and that's where that scene was. I think what we're going to do before we wrap the episode up, we have a TikTok lesson of the week. And yes, I said the TikTok lesson of the week because you can, in fact, as weird as it sounds, learn something from TikTok. And so let me just get my soundboard up here. I'm struggling. I really need a producer. I really do. I need someone to hit all these buttons when I say go. So there's that. And of course, oh, cool. Here we are. We're good to go.
Now for the What's in Your Head podcast TikTok lesson of the week.
So Tyler Lockett asks, why does healthy food cost more than unhealthy food? That's a really good question, isn't it? And the answer, as it is in so many parts of American life, is that it's because of our government. Our government literally pays farmers subsidies to grow bulk grains like wheat, rice, and corn. And when you subsidize something, the price of it goes down and you get a lot more of it. And that's a problem because corn, wheat, and rice are often processed into unhealthy junk food. So partially as a result of these subsidies, those junk foods are the cheapest, most abundant foods in your store. But imagine how things would change if our government subsidized healthy fruits and vegetables instead, and a salad were cheaper than a bag of Doritos.
And this has been the What's in Your Head podcast TikTok lesson of the week.
It's so true. Freddie, you've been joking around on the episode about your weight, and I'm currently trying to lose some weight that I gained starting my new career. And I spent 18 years doing service work, so basically driving around from location to location all day, working on computers. And when you walk into a gas station to get gas, like 2% of the shit in there is even remotely semi-healthy, and the rest, all the cheap, affordable stuff is just so bad for you, and it's such a goddamn struggle just to stay away from that shit. And with your family's history of cattle ranching, I'm sure they probably had neighbors who weren't cattle ranchers, but who were farmers, and kind of probably saw the early onset of the subsidies and all that shit, right?
Not honestly, where I grew up, just to be honest, not a lot of farming, because you got you might be able to grow a small family garden. You maybe have 3 months. You go to the east, you go a little farther east, you get into the little higher Mesa, and there were some soybean farmers, and soybeans I remember in the 80s and 90s, soybeans was going to be the it of all it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time I was talking to one of them, and they were like, "Oh yeah," I was like, "I ain't eating that shit. I want some dead cow."
Yep.
Because of the whole thing. And he's like, "Here, taste this." And I'm like, "Oh man, chicken nuggets." He goes, "No, that's all soybean." And they tastes like ribs. It's like, no, that's all soybean. I was like, holy shit! It kind of opened my mind up to a different side of taste and stuff. But yeah.
Well, Gordon and I were born and raised in northern Kentucky, outside of Cincinnati, and that whole area was farmland when we were growing up.
Oh yeah,
it was all tobacco for the most part.
And now our cousin is a modern day sharecropper. She actually went to school for forestry. She came back, and she had all the farms in her hometown were gone. They're just golf courses and $1 million homes and just neighborhoods. She literally rents an acre of land. She farms it. She started out in a farmer market, but her produce is so damn sought after that now she is like she supplies all the bougie hipster restaurants in Cincinnati just off the acre of land that she was able to find and rent, because all the farmland is just gone. It's all just dried up and gone.
It's some good soil there too.
Well, Gordon.
Yeah, well, and we're and you want to bring that into a historical fact or into just a fact. Just look at what at one point, U.S., 60-70% of the world's farming came from the U.S.
Yep.
Now, because of subsidies and everything else, and big business and factory farming and factory ranching and factory everything else, look what happened in Ukraine. We're going, oh shit, that old school, the big ass fucking fields and all that stuff. We don't do that no more.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yes. Although you have to say it was nice seeing the tractors dragging the Russian tanks along.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you look at it, we need to get back to some of that old shit.
100%.
You're absolutely right. I mean, we have some of the most. You're talking about Kentucky. I was born in Indiana, but all that you go even all the way into Illinois. I mean, that ground is you know what I mean.
Dark earth, good earth.
You could grow even I can grow some shit in there, and I'll kill a flower in a second.
You're talking about how we were like 60% of the provider for the world. A lot of people don't realize in World War II, we brought German prisoners back here to farm, to help farm on government-ran farms. I mean, they were basically, they weren't really forced labor because they're happy to be here, because we treated them a hell of a lot better than the Weimar Republic did. And that's why a lot of these towns in like mid-United States have a lot of German historical cities, because after the war, they basically, we're not going to spend the money to ship you guys back to the fatherland, so here's your papers.
Well, even all the way out to California, where you have places like Sylvain, where it's a full Dutch from World War II. All the Dutch were brought here from World War II, and the whole Sylvain now it's a big Dutch city. It's a Dutch town. It's a beautiful place, and if you really stop and think about it for a second, our government pays farmers
not
to
to farm
burn their fields to not produce. What the? Excuse my language. What? You know what I mean? None of this makes
insane.
sense. It's like just as soon as government gets involved in anything, it gets all fucked up.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Gordon,
that's why every military operation's gone to shit is because the government got involved in it. And it's like, look,
Start getting their dick beaters in there, and
yeah, exactly.
Well, that's why Vietnam turned out the way it did. But I think we're going to wrap it up. There's no real need to go into the news. I think you would agree, Gordon. I think
absolutely.
now's a good time. Freddie, do you have anything you want to plug? Anything you want to put out there?
Nope, not really. Just watch all the movies, baby. Burden of Freedom's coming. We're gonna make that soon. That's gonna be a good show. And just whatever. I don't even know what I'm working on half the time. Just look me up and go watch it.
Does it seem like more projects are coming your way now that there's so many content creators for all these streaming services?
It's like a roller coaster. You know, it started, my phone's ringing, I'm getting emails, I'm getting scripts sent to me, and then now all of a sudden it's like, we don't know what the finances are, we don't know what's going on. Like I think the last time I was talking to you, I was supposed to go to Vegas and work on a movie, and that literally, because that money was coming from Switzerland, and that money pulled out quick. It was like, whoa, shit, no, we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Well, I heard on one podcast a producer saying one of the problems they're having now is they've got so many people with so many projects and so many streaming services that some of the big guys like Netflix will literally rent out a soundstage and keep it empty just to prevent someone else from creating projects on it.
Well, Netflix basically took all the sound stages, like in New Mexico and Albuquerque.
Oh, wow.
That's where, Albuquerque was the place. We're going to go there, but Netflix put their central fucking operation there, and it's hard to film.
And I hear they just canned a lot of their production, too, because of they're losing viewers.
From wokeism.
Well, not only that, but I was talking to Carrie about this because she's getting frustrated about how most of the new content on Netflix is foreign to shows. And she's like, well, what's going on? I said, well, you got to understand, for the longest time, Netflix was the game. They were the only competition in town. So you had all these production companies more than happy to lease them their content. Now Paramount has their own streaming service, Disney has Universal. And so why would you lease your content to somebody else for half the money when you could put it on your own service for all the money? And so Netflix doesn't have the access to the content that they used to because they're no longer the only game in town.
Yeah, and one of the problems that they had was Netflix was able to lease all those content, and they could then go ahead and they could do their politically correct bullshit. No offense to anybody, but they can do the politically stuff that, eighth of 1% of people that want to watch it. So they would do that, and they would spend their money doing that. But now that Disney and everybody else is pulling out, all they have is that left, and everybody's like, "Oh, I don't want to watch that shit. I want to watch, all the Marvel shit, or I want to watch, But you still, when you have shows like the Ozarks and stuff like that, you're gonna. I think that's Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Those shows are going to keep the loyal fans there.
Well, they just killed that one. Netflix is also the company that really started the whole 4-season format. They think no one has the attention span to go longer than 4 seasons.
Exactly.
I guess before we go, we'd be remiss because it is the talk of the town. Do you know anybody who worked on Top Gun, or could you? How do you think that went? Imagine being a coordinator on that.
There's multiple coordinators on it, I'm sure, because you have area. Right before I came on this, I watched Taco Bell.
Yep.
I watched his Facebook Live. He was on with all the original Top Gun, the pilots and stuff that did this, like Hollywood and all those guys, the actual real pilots. And I was watching it. It's very interesting. I know quite a few people that worked on that show, and they all, they love the experience, and they love being a part of that historical. Top Gun was big to me because my recruiter, I grew up in a town that didn't have a movie theater, and my recruiter on my way to MEP station took me to Top Gun right before I went to death.
Yeah.
And
he's like, I should have joined the fucking Navy.
It was just amazing to me, and then all of a sudden I went over and died.
Well, it's a good thing that movie's blowing up and making a shit ton of money because apparently the family is suing Paramount. Have you heard about this before we wrap up the show? Paramount is sued over Top Gun copyright as Maverick soars to the box office high, published on yesterday on D-Day. Family of the author whose article inspired the 1986 movie Top Gun, which starred Tom Cruise, is suing Paramount Pictures for copyright infringement. The lawsuit seeks unspecified damages, including some profits from the Cruise sequel, Top Gun Maverick, and to block the studio from distributing the movie and other sequels. And you say, well, what's his case? Well, it turns out he has a little bit of a case, but they're making so much money it won't matter. Maverick has generated more than $546 million globally since its release date last month, according to data from ComScore. The family is stating that the studio failed to reacquire rights to the 1983 article Top Gun. The studio claims that they sent notices to Paramount all the way back in January 2018 that they would need to reclaim their copyright, and then of January 2020, it expired. And so they're claiming that...
Yeah, they started filming in 2019, so I think that was almost a victim of the pandemic.
According to the complaint filed in Los Angeles federal court, Maverick started shooting in 2018. Yes, I'm sorry. Reclaim the copyrights they would reclaim the copyrights in 2020. However, the family also alleges that Maverick did not finish production in 2019 prior to the transfer of the copyright, but rather in May of 2021. So they didn't have it all buckled up and suited up.
Oh yeah, they came back and did reshoots.
Yep, and so Maverick
was originally supposed to be released in like May
2019. Yeah, it says Maverick was originally slated to release in 2019, but was delayed until the following year. It was then postponed multiple times due to the coronavirus pandemic. It is unclear when Paramount officially finished the film, but that timeline will likely be important as the copyright lawsuit plays out. But they've made so much fucking money off of it.
That fucking Chinese that fucked even our movies up.
They destroyed Red Dawn Part 2. Did you work on Red Dawn? Part 2? The new Red Dawn?
No. It's funny. A guy I fired. He was a former Marine, and I fired the shit out of him. I was just like, everybody's, oh my God, he's like the new upcoming guy. And he went at literally like a month after I fired him, he went and took advice Red Dawn. And then the stunt team had some former Marines and a couple Navy SEAL guys on the stunt team, and they found out that he was full of shit, and they fired him off that. So that's
so funny. So not only did Freddie Joe fire him, he fired the shit out of him.
I fucking fired him. Well,
that's
when I
awesome.
Fire somebody, it's fucking famous.
That's awesome.
I don't give a fuck who hears it. You're an idiot. You're going to get fired.
Now, Freddie Joe is saying he's watching Taco Bell. That would be Tall Tales with Mitch Taco Bell. We've also had him on an episode of the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast.
I learned something tonight that was like a really cool story. Your audience, like, remember the whole thing where he flew upside down and flipped him off?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it happened. He actually the guy who flew upside down.
Weren't they Blue Angels or Thunderbirds pilots for the original one?
No. He was Navy. Okay. F-14, and he flew upside down. It might have been. I don't know.
You're talking about on the original or the new one?
No, I'm talking about the original.
Okay. Yep.
Taco had the actual guys who did it, and his call sign was Hollywood, and he flew upside down, and then his navigator and everything was taking the pictures, taking pictures all about things, and they were S5s they called them or something like that. They like freaked out, and then his wingman actually flipped off the guy, and so in Top Gun they put both those stories together. He flew upside down and flipped him off and took a picture. But
that bumped me a little. I was watching a little bit of the original yesterday, and then I remembered back to when I was a child watching. I was like, they're calling that a MiG-27. That's a T-38 trainer.
Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. That was an Air Force trainer. Yeah. It's supposed to be a MiG-23, right?
Something like that.
In real life, it was a MiG, like a MiG-23 or something. But he said it was MiG-23 and something else. I was listening to the thing, and it was like really interesting. He was like, they just kind of put the two stories together and made it like, I flew upside down, took a picture, flipping them off. He goes, no, I was upside down, but and then they were explaining that the F-14 could only fly upside down because they had the external tanks. They could only fly upside down for like 20 or 30 seconds.
Sure.
Yeah, they'll either lose fuel or oil pressure,
Yeah, I guess there's a sub tank inside that tank, and once that runs out, they're done.
That's it.
So, yeah,
it's a brick.
It was a good little Facebook Live he had. He did a really good job tonight. It was kind of interesting. I was like, holy shit, it's kind of cool.
Well,
and then it was funny to watch them all argue. No, you didn't do that. That was fucking Sandman. That was. I was like, oh fuck, this is awesome. It's like a bunch of jarheads sitting around.
Well, we want to thank Freddie Joe Farnsworth for coming on the What's in Your Head podcast. This episode of the What's in Your Head podcast is brought to you by no one. That's right. After I closed down my business, we lost our primary sponsor. So if you're interested in sponsoring and maybe having the studio named after you, please email us at info@d-410.com. And if you want to support the show, please head over to patreon.com or simply d-410.com or whatsinyourhead.com. Click on the Patreon link and sign up. It's only $1 a month. If you kind of like us, if you sort of like us, you can sign up for the $3.50 a month plan. And if you like Winnie Cooper and you like us, and you want the long arms, deep pocket plan, sign up for $7.50 a month, and you'll get yourself a free T-shirt after month 2. And if you don't want to do any of all that, that's fine. I understand. Money's tight, times are hard. Why waste it on our asses? All you have to do is simply suggest us to a friend. Find a like-minded person and say, hey, check out this podcast. I know everybody and their grandmother has a podcast, but here's another one too, because as Gordon and I say, podcasts are like rock bands. In the 80s, everybody had one. But until next week, thank you all, and we will talk to you soon.
This has been a Digital 410 production.